It was a quiet evening in a small town hospital. The soft, rhythmic beeping of machines and the faint, clean smell of disinfectant hung in the air. In one of the rooms, an elderly man named Mr. Harris lay on his bed. He was frail and pale, his eyes fixed on the darkening window outside. He looked tired, not just from the illness that had weakened his body, but from the long, heavy journey of life itself. The door creaked open, and a nurse entered, her voice gentle as she broke the silence. "Sir," she began, "there's a young man outside asking to see you. He says his name is Ethan." At the mention of the name, a flicker of light returned to Mr. Harris's tired eyes. He turned his head slowly, his voice a faint, hopeful whisper. "Ethan, my son?" he asked, a lifetime of longing in those two words. "Please, bring him in." A few moments later, a tall young man stepped into the room. He looked nervous, clutching his cap tightly in his hands. He walked cautiously to the bedside and reached out, taking the old man's thin, trembling hand in his own. Mr. Harris managed a weak smile, his grip surprisingly firm. "Ethan, you came," he said, relief washing over his face. The young man swallowed hard, his own voice thick with emotion. "Yes, sir, I'm here. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere." At those words, tears welled up in Mr. Harris's eyes and began to trace paths down his wrinkled cheeks. "Thank you, son," he managed to say. "I knew you would come. I'm not scared anymore." Ethan pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down, never letting go of the old man's hand. For hours, he sat in quiet companionship. He listened as Mr. Harris spoke softly, his voice drifting in and out. He spoke of his late wife, the love of his life, and the emptiness she had left behind. He talked about his regrets, the chances he missed, and the deep, aching wish that he had spent more time with his son instead of relentlessly chasing money and success. Through it all, Ethan listened, offering a comforting squeeze of the hand now and then. When the old man's voice faltered, filled with self-doubt, Ethan leaned in closer. "You did your best, Dad," he said softly. "You were always strong for us. You did what you thought was right." The old man's expression softened, and a peaceful smile touched his lips. "You've grown into a fine man, Ethan. I'm proud of you." The nurse would occasionally peek through the curtain, a quiet observer to this tender reunion. She saw them sitting together, one talking, the other listening. Their hands intertwined a bridge between two generations, a silent promise of presence. Hours slipped by. The dim light of evening gave way to the deep dark of night. Around midnight, Mr. Harris's breathing grew slower, shallower. With one last faint breath, he whispered, "Thank you for coming, my son." And then, quietly, peacefully, he was gone. Ethan sat there in the stillness, holding the now limp hand, tears streaming silently down his face. The room was filled with an unspoken grief. A while later, the nurse returned. Seeing the scene before her, she placed a gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder. "I'm so sorry for your loss," she said with deep sympathy. Ethan looked up, his eyes red and his voice trembling as he asked a question that hung in the air like a ghost. Who was he? The nurse froze, confusion clouding her features. I thought, he was your father. Ethan shook his head slowly, his gaze returning to the peaceful face of the man in the bed. No, I've never seen him before in my life. The nurse's eyes widened in disbelief. She couldn't comprehend it. Then why? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Why did you stay with him all this time? Ethan looked at the old man, a bittersweet smile on his face. I saw how lonely he was, he explained softly. When I came in and held his hand, he smiled, and for a moment, in his mind, his son had come home. I couldn't take that away from him, not at the end. Tears now filled the nurse's eyes as she understood the depth of his compassion. You have a beautiful heart, she whispered, humbled by his act of selfless kindness. Ethan nodded gently. No one deserves to die alone. He stood up, carefully pulling the blanket up to cover the old man's body. Leaning down, he whispered one final goodbye. Rest in peace, Dad. Wherever your real son is, I hope he learns what I just did. As Ethan walked out of the hospital and back into the night, the camera lingers on the empty chair beside the hospital bed. It was just a simple chair, but for one night it became a throne of love, a symbol of forgiveness, and a testament to the power of human compassion. This story reminds us that sometimes the people who are not related by blood show the purest form of love. Kindness truly costs nothing, but to someone who has nothing left, it can mean everything. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing for more content that celebrates the best of humanity.